The Galactic Academy's training deck fell silent as Cadet Marcus Chen stepped into the combat circle. Around him, dozens of alien cadets from 17 different species watched with a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed amusement. At the far end of the circle, Warlord Keithvar towered nearly 3 meters tall, his obsidian exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh training lights. The Vorthak Predator's forearms flexed with casual menace, each limb capable of crushing steel. "So," Keithvar's voice rumbled through his translator, "the Academy sends me a human as my final combat assessment." His mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his kind. "Tell me, little mammal, what colony world spawned you? I have tasted the flesh of your species before, sweet, tender things from the Outer Rim settlements." Marcus said nothing. He simply checked his standard-issue plasma blade and adjusted his training armor. The weapon felt inadequate in his hands, a training tool designed for controlled sparring rather than true combat. But the Academy's rules were clear: regulation equipment only. "Nothing to say?" Kethavar's laughter grew louder, echoing off the metal walls. Several alien cadets joined in, the reptilian Skatar hissing their amusement, the crystalline Zephyrians chiming like broken glass. "Perhaps you cannot understand me through your primitive translation matrix. Let me speak in terms your simple mind can grasp." The warlord activated his own weapons, 4 plasma claws that extended from his natural talons, each one military grade and far beyond Academy regulations. The energy fields crackled with lethal intensity. "I am Keithvar, destroyer of the Centauri colonies. I have hunted your kind across 12 star systems. Your people flee like prey animals when they hear my name whispered in the void between stars." His secondary arms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. "And now the Academy thinks a single human whelp can stand against me in honorable combat?" Marcus finally spoke, his voice quiet but carrying clearly across the silent deck. "Honorable combat?" He gestured at the illegal weapons. "You're using military-grade modifications in a training exercise. What honor is there in fighting prey?" Keithvar's mandibles clicked again. "I take the advantages I require. This is the way of predators." The human cadet's expression remained unchanged. "I see." He deactivated his plasma blade and set it aside along with his training armor. Now he stood in the circle wearing only the Academy's standard jumpsuit, completely unarmed. The laughter around the circle intensified. Even some of the instructors, massive Corvani warriors and swift Nexari hunters, made sounds of derision. "Oh, this is rich," Keithvar roared. The human strips himself of even his pathetic weapons. "Tell me, does your species have a concept of ritual suicide? Perhaps this is some primitive ceremony before death?" Marcus rolled his shoulders and settled into a fighting stance that looked deceptively relaxed. "My species has a lot of concepts, Warlord. Let me share one with you." "Please," Keithvar gestured grandly with all 4 arms. "Enlighten us before I paint the deck with your entrails." "We call it proportional response." Marcus's eyes never left the warlord's center mass. "You see, most species in the galaxy evolved as either predators or prey. You're clearly a predator. All natural weapons, instincts for the hunt, born to kill. Finally, the prey animal shows wisdom. But humans," Marcus continued, "were different. We didn't evolve as predators or prey. We evolved as something much more dangerous." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "We evolved as survivors." Keithvar lunged forward with blinding speed, all 4 claws aimed at the human's torso. The attack would have bisected any normal opponent. Marcus wasn't there. The human had moved, not with the flashy acrobatics of trained warriors, but with the efficient, brutal economy of motion that spoke to something deeper than training. He slipped inside Keithar's guard like smoke, his hands finding pressure points on the warlord's exoskeleton that no academy course had ever taught. Keithar's triumphant roar turned into a shriek of pain as his own momentum carried him past his target. He spun around, confused and suddenly wary. "Impossible." "You moved like what?" Marcus asked quietly. "Like something that's hunted creatures like you for 200,000 years?" The next exchange lasted 3 seconds. Keithvar, despite his size and natural advantages, despite his illegal weapons and decades of combat experience, found himself fighting something he'd never encountered before. A human who had stopped pretending to be civilized. Marcus didn't fight like the other cadets with their structured martial arts and honorable techniques. He fought like humanity had always fought, with improvised weapons, impossible angles, and a complete willingness to do whatever was necessary to survive. A torn piece of decking became a blade. The warlord's own weight became a weapon against him. Every rule of combat that the civilized galaxy had developed was discarded in favor of raw primal effectiveness. When the dust settled, Kethavar lay on the deck, his exoskeleton cracked in 17 places, his weapons scattered and useless. He was still alive. Marcus had been precise in that regard, but he would never hunt again. The human cadet stood over him, not even breathing hard. Around the circle, absolute silence reigned. "You wanted to know what colony world spawned me," Marcus said, his voice carrying to every corner of the deck. "Earth. Sol 3. The world where we learned to kill everything that tried to kill us first." He looked around at the assembled aliens, his gaze lingering on each species. "The world where we learned that there's no such thing as a fair fight when your survival is on the line." He walked over to where Kethavar's translator had fallen and picked it up. The device was still functional, still broadcasting the warlord's ragged breathing and barely coherent whimpers. "You said you've tasted human flesh before," Marcus said conversationally. "Colonists, civilians, people who couldn't fight back." He knelt beside the broken predator. "But you made one mistake, warlord. You never faced a human who was actually trying to kill you." Kethavar's mandibles clicked weakly, trying to form words. The sound that emerged was barely recognizable as speech. "Please." Marcus stood and walked away, leaving the translator beside the fallen warlord. Behind him, Kethavar's voice continued to emanate from the device. No longer the proud roar of a predator, but the desperate, terrified screaming of something that had finally encountered an apex predator. The sound followed Marcus all the way to the exit, where he paused to address the assembled cadets one final time. "Class dismissed," he said simply. The screaming continued long after he was gone,